Greetings and the best of salutations. There will be prayer, power, peace, patience, and prosperity. Just thoughts of expression. The source of life and the source of authority. There is a scientific dictum that says that if something exists, it and if it exists, it can be it can be measured. Can be measured. I always like to try to do my best to deal with this thing linguistically because it's through a dialectical process for me when I realized that individually I change because the inner conversations that I have with myself more than likely creates my circumstances. Yes. And circumstances tend to make us other than ourselves. For me, linguistically, the source of all authority is resiliency. And I could biologically prove that is that by birth, when a child comes out of his or her mother's womb, the the vagina of the vagina is so resilient, so elastic that it comes out. The child comes out. The form of the child comes out, and then the vagina gets right back in shape. That's resiliency. That's biologically proven, and that's why I say it is the resiliency of success. Resiliency is the author of success. So I try to speak from the position of resiliency. I say I try to teach reverence and reverence the womb that gave me birth. Yes, that's the backdrop behind that. But I say I also like to come in the spirit of cooperation. Yes, and leadership is me is coordination. How you help find your bearings, and that is associated with culture. But even though Sister Dr. Seymour, I like to use her name. She says culture is dynamic; it always changes. She said you have to take a very serious look at culture when it becomes destructive. Culture is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Yes, and then Brother Warm Imam Dean Muhammad made it clear about that which killing people is resistance to change. Resistant because if we look at the seasons change. Even your body changes, and even your thinking should change. You should evolve because I see life. Some I think the if it's attributed to the Egyptians that they saw life as a protein, but I see life as a living organism. I see life as a living organism because biologically we're always developing and we're always forming and we're always growing. And when one stops developing, he or she has lost his ambition, he has lost his drive, he has lost his motivation. Yes, and then his anything else becomes as a result of becoming contaminated. He or she becomes corruptive, and that produces deviant behavior. When we deal with deviant behavior, you do things that is contrary to nature, and you are unable to distinguish sickness from health, and you become very dull-minded person. There are those who are could be in the academic field, who can say, "Well, I have my degree, and that I don't, maybe not, don't need to learn anymore, so you stop growing." And that's a disease, that is a sickness, that is a illness. But a degree is a temperament. It's a degree of temperament. Yes, degree represents temperament. Yes. So in the either you can have a incoherent temperament or a coherent temperament, and that's deals with being cognitive, associated with yeah, being cognitive. Yes. But um, the source of authority is resiliency. The source of life is water. Yes, yes, it's water. Yes. Um, our body in this universe is comprised mostly of water, and then you have the sensitivity of the water, and then you have the a pebble that hits the water, and it uh, vibrates or reverberates or something, or it spreads. And you see a circle within the circle, a circle within the circle. Yes, and that is communication, and that's what it represents, communication. And that's why it says that in a dialectical process, that when we learn to change, and that's why we have language, either verbal or non-verbal. I believe the natives, what they call Native Americans, spoke the sign language, which means you can't misinterpret what is being said. Yes, and there are people who have oral people, then there are those who have a written script. And then when you can see when things are comprised of other languages, it could say one thing and mean something else. You know. Yes, and people who know that can use that to their advantage. And but we have the intentions behind in which an individual use anything, his faculties, his hands, use of his limbs, his ears. And the Native American says, "Be aware of those who speak with a forked tongue." Yes. So, uh, in this creation, uh, individual and and so-called government rulership. Uh, I read from a book, the writings of called "The Sacred Wisdom of Ancient Egypt." I don't promote any form of a belief system. I'm just extracting from what has been written and build on it and continue to grow and evolve. It's called the Book of Knowing the Creations. Knowing didn't say creation, but it says creations. Does the creations, does it embodied, does it embodies chaos, corruption, and confusion? The question, what we create, does it embody chaos, corruption, and confusion? If so, then it has been contaminated. It says, that was my interjection. I interject that in there. But it says here is that um, this book takes its title from the book of knowing the creators of Ra. We look at language, anything you have the word Re is associated really with Ra. Is a reconnection, a reconnection. And when you reconnect to me with Ra, you deal with the sun, you deal with the light, you deal with the sun and the light, you deal with utility. This whole universe is a utility. Yes, it's the light is a utility in the society in which we live. In the processing of one's thinking, they make you pay for something that which has been naturally given to you. So yes, in the striking down of Apophis, Apophis, uh, the serpent of evil and chaos. Yes, and we see, if we look at, if the spelling is correct, Apophis, his, or a hissing, a hissing, striking down the hissing, striking down suggestions, something that is not an answer. And I realized that uh, the answer to the question is a question of governance. Governance, which means how we govern ourselves on a daily basis. Anything you take out of its natural habitat and natural form to do things that which is contrary to nature, that's evil. That creates chaos. Yes. But it goes on to say, this is me, and I just interjected that in there. And hopefully that which the dosage that which I am administering is not too much or is not too less, and it could be the perfect serum, the perfect serum. But it contains writings from other sources as well, since there is no single text, which represents a composite. I mean, one thing I've learned, and if it's true or not, that this group of individuals or people chronicle something that is chronicled. It didn't matter. It's the abstract. It's the abstract. I come to realize people offer concrete solutions to abstract problems. The composite of the ancient Egyptian concept of creation and effective grabs. The grasp of it is possible only through gathering and synthesizing passages from several sources. And this is applied to us at this stage of our existence. That there is a group of people who said that they had no culture, but they realized that they can take from other cultures and, and learn from other cultures, and they can make it to become their culture because they're gathering information and they can call it their own. Yes. But the synthesizing under the teachings of common humanity, dealing with the maturation process, which is the organization that I have, played a part in creating, is that it deals with the effort, and the effort must be synthesized into a useful purpose. Yes, and it is designed to readdress social diversity, moving from a persecuted minority to a privileged majority. Is there any difference in ethnicity of our ethics, of how our obligation one with another? Are there any differences? Unless something has contaminated a group of people and that placed them in a precarious situation that will cause them to even see you different and act indifferent towards you, with they personalize their relationship with you. They don't see you and treat you as a human being. So therefore you try to compensate for that and seeking their approval. Yes, I think Dr. Clark says something in regards to the African Americans, that they try to prove their their legitimacy, that they are that their legitimacy here in not in America when it comes to um, those who did their best to try to make them feel less than human beings. But then the psychology behind that is that when a person think of you as that, then that's hypocritical in nature, because that's the way they really see themselves. So they're trying to compensate something as well. And what are people trying to compensate for? They're trying to find value. They're trying to find relevance. Yeah, a place of relevance. They're trying to find relevance. So the synthesizing, gathering and synthesizing. As I go on, it says, as the title suggests, the ancient Egyptians viewed creation as a continuous process. As I stated earlier, that life, I see life as a living organism, as a continuous process, always evolving, always evolving. And thus we have the creators rather than the creation. We have creations, I should say, rather than the creation. Thus a difference. Thus we have the creations rather than the creation. How can that be proven? That they're creations. Remember, I said that synthesizing, gathering information unto a useful purpose. Creations, creations. A living organism. Think you take fungus or something, you put it somewhere, and it will find. If you put it in a maze, it will find its way out. It will find its way out, because in life there is a enter and there is a exit. If you look at the 9 holes in our body, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, the private spots, these are enter and exit. Enter and exit. There's always an entering. There's always an exit. There's always a way out. There's always a way out. Yes, the challenge is that Mr. Probably used the word a way out, because we can go way into the so-called heavens, as people call it, and realize that we can escape and try to compensate once again, and we can rationalize and do many things just to try to escape this reality, knowing physically we are on this plane of existence, and the soul is housed in this body, and it's through the eyes that we see things. Um, because more than likely, when we perish, make the transition, the eyes just follow. The eyes follow. As the eyes follow the departure of the life, of the breath of the life that is in this body. Yes, and sometimes you can tell that you are uh, making a transition. You just look at your breathing patterns, and sometimes your breathing patterns can be off at points, and I don't necessarily know what that could be all associated with, but there is a certain way you're supposed to breathe, because everything is designed to be in sync, to be in sync. Yes, and you can be in a certain environment, and a certain environment is not conducive for your soul, for your life, and therefore the life of the soul or the breath of your body, it could vacillate, if I may use that word correctly, and your breathing patterns become not in sync, because you're dealing with a sickness and a chaos, and your soul is saying that this should not be. that this should not be, you know. And that is the contamination, the chaos, the corruption, and the confusion of let's say minds coming together to create um, chaos and confusion, and it's passed on to individuals. Then they live a life of corruption, chaos, turmoil, and confusion. Very hostile and sick environment. Yes, sick environment. And the challenge is that people, due to feelings of inadequacy, as Common Humanity teaches, one of the one of the social learning disabilities, because I make a case that would suffer from a social disorder, learning disability, a disability SDLD. But the challenge is that people have become so accustomed to living a chaotic, hostile, or corrupt, contaminated, chaotic life. Yes, and they and will maintain it and protect it and support it. Yes, and in some sick way, they think that it gives them, some worth and some value because others whom they may keep a company with, um, people become like enablers one to another to perpetuate that and that type of sick behavior. Yes, the, and that's due to uses of other toxins. Yes, that's why it is written in the religious text that the that in toxins it's not it's not required. It's not required. And people, do in the drink what they call spirits, and society will say that is healthy to do so. Um, there is a teaching that says that which is so-called good for the goose ain't good for the gander. If that works for you, then that doesn't work for me, because I know I cannot participate um, in that. Yes, it's like if someone does something and they get away with it, then you come away and you think you can get away with it. There's no justification in the continuance of doing wrong. And then you were saying, is that wrong? You make that decision. That's your choice. But remember the influence of the society. The first creation was an event, and called it at the first time. I have a challenge with the word event. This is how some, I don't know what word to use, people who may be scholars or whatever, if I misappropriately attribute it to scholars, that they always base their history on events, you know, and they make a major, they will call something that is a major event, and that's what the people were paying in, and that's what they were focused on. Because I believe it Weaver was Malcolm. He said he or she who controls the projection could project what they want to project about you. So they control the projection. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And then you tend to focus on that. And the reason why I say that, because there are people behind the scenes who are doing great things that you may not even be aware of. You and I are not even aware. Yeah. There are certain things innately in each and every one of us that we probably have not even tapped into, because the seed of potential have been sown into us, and once we become aware of it, we build on it, and we cultivate it. That's why I always say I like to promote. Cultivate the potential of knowledge that is in us all, because primarily I've learned our true potential, our true purpose is to reach our full potential, and that is to move from sympathy to empathy. Yes, because we're dealing with a spirit of apathy. To move from sympathy to empathy, that's the transition. But creation is repeated uh, each day. Each day. Day represents warmth. Warmth. In nature, in nature, nature comes to awakens one's consciousness. And remember, vanity is the enemy of consciousness. But nature comes to awaken one's consciousness and to get to one's intellect or one's intelligence. You know, awaken one's consciousness. Therefore, to be intelligent, to think, to reflect, to meditate, to be considerate, to be thoughtful, to be kind, to be generous. It says in one of the English Bibles, the wages of sin. Sin is a lack of accountability, moral culture decline. Recidivism is death, but the gift carries matter. The gift is the present, is the present. Uh, but the gift of God. And I don't like to use that word. God like to call it governance, ordinance, decree. Degree is eternal life, eternal life. Righteous living, meaningful, meaningful life. A life full of meaning. The nature and human history. In nature, sunrise, the new beginning, creation. Each day is a new what? A new beginning. Beginning. The end in the beginning. What has happened in the beginning and to the end, that we have become so conditioned to not to grow and develop and remain in the same thought, thinking, attitude, emotions, and behavior. We do that from beginning to end. What are what are we creating? What are we creating? Are we creating a conditioning programming system? A computerized generation that is programmed and not being educated? Each day a reflection of this history in a historical context. The content will be judged, as Dr. King says, by the content of our character. It is reflected. It is a reflection. It is says that created in the image and the likeness. The basis of your knowledge is the reflection of your life that one is living. It is reflected in humanity's constant establishment. So, it is reflected constant on a consistent, continuing basis. Creations of what is being created, what is being evolved. It's constant on a continuous basis. It is always evolving. An establishment meant to establish something. What is trying to be established here? Hmm? That we need to learn not only our morals, not only our ethics to build on it, to evolve, but to apply the proper wherewithal, if I may use that, the where. That's our awareness, our surroundings, our circumstances, our clothing for protection with all of humanity. Hmm? To learn from all of humanity in the reestablishment of order. Remember, I said that we're suffering from a social disorder, learning disability, and righteous, meaningful life, to reestablish a meaningful life. So maybe our plane of existence here is to reestablish a meaningful life in the midst of chaos, in the midst of evil, in the midst of turmoil, in the midst of corruption, in the midst of confusion. Says is the role, the character that has been given to us to build on our humanity and the wherewithal to learn how to interact in the best of ways with all of humanity, with all the peoples on this plane of existence, is the role, the character, similar to Ra. Let there be light. Let there be knowledge. In the Bible, they call it the city of On, the city of light. The light is on. Until next time, I want to say the social order that will be entrusted to human intelligence and human decency is the jail, the bond, the glue, the unity that unites us all, and to be attracted or the attraction. I think Marcus Garvey says the greatest. He says he is attracted to progress, but that which is entrusted, the order that is entrusted, even in the limitations of humans, that will attract the best, is the word, and the word is integrity, and the best is ancient Egypt, the goddess best, the protection of women and children, of intelligence, of inhuman decency, because this creation is going to draw out the best and bring out the best in them, and that is in us all, for the development of one's intellect, for the betterment of humanity. Without even having the need for bloodshed, because the blood is designed to stay in the body. it is the society in which we live. The best of society, the best is attracted to this. The best. As a songwriter said, there are signs of it. She said, I believe the best is yet to come. And it has came. It is here. But don't deviate from it. Don't fear it. You are the best. For you are chosen. That's why you're here. Be the best of human intelligence, human decency. As an individual, as a government, as a rule that can be measured in the manner and way in which we treat one another. That's royalty. Until next time.